Welcome back to Book Addictions with Rachel Saylor, your host here, Rachel. Today I'm going to be talking about 2 fiction books and 1 nonfiction book. When I am reading a collection of books, which I am always because I'm addicted, I like to have 1 nonfiction book at least in the midst of all of my other fiction novels that I'm reading. So, first up, I'm going to be talking about a fantasy novel. This bad boy is hefty, but is so good and so worth it. It's called The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. This was recommended to me by my brother-in-law, who is a huge fantasy fan, and let me tell you, he did not steer me in the wrong direction. If you are at all into this kind of genre, please read it. It's really interesting because the narrator is the hero of our story, and it shows his progression from growing up into how he becomes the most powerful wizard in this world. And everybody knows who he is, and it's really interesting. You gotta give it a read. It's incredible. Next up, my nonfiction choice, Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. It is the quest for true belonging and the courage to stand alone. Some things that I really love about this book. Brené Brown is a really lovely, eloquently spoken lady, and she does a lot of research. She is a researcher, and she is exploring this idea that in this day and age, it has become so much more easy for us to not surround ourselves with people who think differently from us. We can surround ourselves with people who are so like-minded and have the same mindsets, and it feels good. But she's talking about the importance of interacting with others who don't think the same way, and how that can lead to growth and ultimately a better world. But in that, when we are interacting with others who do not share the same perspective as us, to not approach it in a dehumanizing way, in a way where we want to just argue and say mean things and debate, rather than listen and come to it with like a really loving and kind and caring perspective. And so I think it's really beautiful and a really great reminder of how to interact with people. I think we all can sometimes get a little caught up in like what we believe and what we think is right, but to really listen, but also stand very firm in your own beliefs and your own true authentic self. So, Brené Brown, Braving the Wilderness, lovely book. My last book choice, book addiction, is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I'm listening to it on audio, and it is a multi-generational saga that follows a woman who falls in love with the wrong kind of man in Korea, gets pregnant, does not want to be his mistress. So she decides that she's going to lead a different life for herself, and she's going to marry a different, very kind man and follow him to Japan. And it follows it during this time in the 40s and the 50s as well, when the war is happening and there's unrest between Japan and Korea. So this historical fiction is just really fascinating, interesting to me to learn about, what was really going on between Japan and Korea. And I really love this book. I love that there are really strong, independent women, even in this day in that day and age, and who are just like, you know what? If I have to provide for my family, I can figure out a way to feed them, and I don't need to rely on a man. But there's also, family values and moral convictions. Anyways, it's really good. It is a pretty long book. I've really enjoyed listening to it on audio. Highly suggest it. So those are my 3 books this week for book addictions. I hope you all can take a peek, take a read, take a listen, and get addicted with me. Everybody stay addicted to those books. It's a healthy addiction. Till next time.